Hello, welcome back. We're going to take a deeper look today at an idea that causes tremendous resistance. That's actually putting it mildly. It causes tremendous resistance here on the path to see our brother as ourselves. Your brother is you, and nothing is more antithetical to the ego than that statement. Because, of course, the ego would have us believe that we're all separate individuals, self sustaining survival units, 8 billion strong and counting, multiplying, dividing more and more individual units all the time. Yet that's not truth. It's not the way things really are. It's not the way it is. And this idea that our brother is us causes tremendous resistance. So, to the extent, as always, this is true of all resistance that we encounter, to the extent that you're feeling resistance to the idea that I am you and you are me, and your worst political enemy is you, and your ex is you, and your ex's parents are also you, and your son or daughter is you, your best friend is you. There's no difference. There's only perfect oneness. To the extent that that isn't going down for you, that's actually not a problem at all. Expect this resistance here on the path. Understand simply that it is the ego that's resisting. The Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, the part of our mind that speaks truly, knows the truth about us, and will simply wait patiently while we run amok. And we always have the choice to come back to truth. Come back to the truth of who we all are. And your brother is you. He's not related to you. He's not similar to you. He is you. We're shown here in section 2 here of chapter 9 of the text. We're shown here that the Holy Spirit, Jesus, Sam, is not deceived by our deceptions. We are free to use the power of mind to deceive ourselves and to think that we're individual, self-sustaining survival units. To think that we're encased in this semi-permeable membrane that we call skin, which supposedly houses the Son of God. I'm shaking my head because we all know that that's not true. There's a part of you. Deep down, it's a part of your mind that has never left you, that remembers truth, that remembers the truth of who you are and what you are and where you are. It is this part of our mind that continually speaks to us and calls us home, in a manner of speaking. We've never left. So, in truth, there's no place for us to go. We're perfectly at home in God, where we have always been, and not as a human body. That is not the Son of God. To think that this constitutes the Son of God is simply a self-deception. And Jesus is not deceived by our self-deception. He sees us as we are. The Holy Spirit sees us as we are. That's what he pays attention to. So, not surprisingly, here on the path, we are invited to do the same. So, the invitation here is to see our brother's holiness, not his body. To see our brother in all his holiness, not in his limitations, which are just an illusion, by the way. This is an idea that is stressed quite a bit here in the text of A Course in Miracles, and it's an invitation for us to see our brother as he really is, not the way we've made him, a miserable sinner, a political miscreant, a deviant, scum, ridiculous, an idiot, or worse. We can certainly call our brother worse names than those. And we have, perhaps even earlier today, you did just that. I don't know. We're invited to see beyond the surface level appearance. This is not your brother. It's not the Son of God. We're invited to see his holiness. What happens when we see our brother's holiness instead of his limitations? We see our own holiness instead of our own limitations. And this is how we do it, by choosing, deliberately choosing right now to see our brother's holiness and not his body. Remember that your brother is you. And this is how we recognize that all of the teachings here in this 1,000-page plus book called A Course in Miracles are in fact true, by doing it through moment to moment practical application. We're not told or ordered to wait around until this thing peters out, loses all its muster, and disintegrates in order to experience truth. No, it's accessible right now. When else? There is no other period of time. There is only right now. In fact, there's no time at all. Eternity is beyond all concepts of time. It simply is. So when else would you recognize and remember and accept the truth about yourself, but right now? When else? There is no other time to do it. Not decades from now. And let's be glad of that. There is no need at all to wait. Truth is as it's always been, and it's accessible right now because it's all there is. We simply have the choice right now to remove all of the barriers to our awareness of truth, like lifting a veil. So when we choose to see our brother as the holy, whole, complete, radiant Son of God, so we see ourselves. When we choose the opposite, to see our brother as a body and a scumbag, so we see ourselves as a body and a scumbag, and limited, severely, grossly limited, debilitated, all of that. We have a choice. It's a very important choice, and it's the choice that we have between truth or illusion, between God or the ego, between the thought system of the Holy Spirit or individual self-sustaining survival unitism that we practice here in the world. We have a choice in the present moment. And we know the choice that will show us truth. We know what to choose. You know what to choose. So you're invited every time that you remember to do it, to do it. We're invited to hear the Holy Spirit in our brother. Right? We're invited to see him as he is. That is how we see ourselves truly. Why is this the case? There's only perfect oneness. Your brother is you. And here in the world where we believe there are 8 billion things and counting running around called human beings, where we have set up elaborate, completely artificial and made up things like nation states and countries and different languages and political boundaries and economic systems that pit us against our brother in this bad dream that we refer to as competition. Here in this world that we're taught growing up is our reality. We often experience resistance to the truth because we want the illusion instead. So we're invited to change our mind. This entire course is all about a change of mind. It's about changing your mind and wanting truth instead of illusion, wanting the peace of God and only the peace of God. Because here's the deal. What we see is what we want to see. The world that appears to be outside of us simply reflects our thoughts. Do you see a peaceful world? Well, that's a reflection of your thoughts. Do you see a world of warfare, struggle, strife, climate crisis, and competition? That reflects your thoughts. We see what we want to see. If you want to see separation, voila, you see just that, separation. If you want to see the peace of God, if you want this experience, what will you then see if you want it truly? Exactly. Part of the resistance that we experience to truth comes from the fact that we're so used to making things so very, very complicated, aren't we? We're so used to parsing our existence here in the world as apparent human beings into different categories and subcategories, and we have email, Convenient? Yeah. Time suck? Yeah. Right? We have all of these things that occupy our lives here in the world, and we parse our experience out into little separate compartments, and we think that they're separate. Yet that doesn't get us anywhere when it comes to true happiness. We may have some success in business. You may be in a peaceful, a beautiful, supportive, loving relationship. You may have had lots of success in the world. You may be good looking. I don't know. All kinds of things may have happened for you, but it's very important for us to realize that none of them lasts. This doesn't last, doesn't look the same as it did yesterday, much less 30 years ago, for example. So there's no point in believing that this is the Son of God. It's not, and we know that it's not. Yet, here where we take all of these things to be so real, the truth, this course, can seem like a real shock. It can seem like a brutal shock to the system. It can seem incredible, far out. And in fact, you can turn this video off. I bet some people already have, right? These ideas are antithetical to the ego. The ego can't handle the truth. So when we side with the ego, neither can we. When, however, we listen to our inner teacher, we learn that we're fully capable of leaving the ego behind. And what's the benefit of that? Well, here in our economic systems, we always ask, what's in it for me? Me, 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 me. Me, what you going to offer me today? Me, me, me. Ego, me. No, what's in it for you? The peace of God that is beyond all concepts. Truth, which is beyond all concepts. It's not some idea that we read about in a book because it's beyond all concepts. It is experienced. God is known. So the question, the very practical question for all of us here in the present moment is, do we want the peace of God? And when we answer yes, and you can answer no, by the way, it's your choice, isn't it? But when we eventually answer yes, then we're invited to experience this for ourselves. And how do we do it? Well, we clear the illusions from our mind. We lift the veil, so to speak. And what better way to do that than seeing your brother as yourself and choosing right now, in the present moment, to see his holiness instead of his limitations. I thank all of you for joining me here today, and I want to invite you to please ask questions if you have them. We have had recently a number of really excellent questions, and they come up on the spiritual path because it's a path of self-inquiry. So questions should rightly arise. And in fact, there are plenty of days, you may be experiencing one right now, where it feels like you've got more questions than answers. We've all had that happen a lot. So if that's going on and you have a question, please feel welcome to leave it. Even if you want to just drop in and say hello, you're more than welcome to do so. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to have you subscribe if you have not yet. This is the subscription button, that arrow in the corner of your screen, and I invite you to go ahead and click that. These videos appear several times a week. And well, number one, we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, which is hundreds of pages long. So that's a lot to talk about, for one. And also, consistency is very important on the spiritual path, which you well know. I mean, it's true of any aspect of life, isn't it? So we come back to the same ideas over and over and over again until we no longer need to come back to the ideas because we know God. We're awake. So we return to them over and over. It's what we do, and it's part of our learning, isn't it? So I thank you, as always, for joining me, and I will see you again very soon.